Welcome to My Turn Podcast, a gaming podcast hosted by extra competitive siblings. My name's Jem and I'm the eldest sibling, and I'm joined today by my littlest sibling, Erim.
Hi, I'm the little one, which is also the biggest one if you go by size. But yeah. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I'm fine. But how does that work? Like, I know quite a lot of people where the youngest sibling is taller than all the others.
Oh, is that a thing?
I mean...
Do I get like the growing genes? Is that how that works?
Is it just because Mummy Ahmed just got better at growing babies?
Maybe, but I always thought the firstborn was meant to be the strongest.
I'm pretty weak and pathetic and sickly.
Oh, don't say that. It is true though.
But thank you for joining us on this edition of My Turn Podcast. This is a gaming podcast, so you can expect news, reviews, laughs and arguments as we take on games across all genres and platforms. And what kind of games are we talking about today, Erin?
Fun games.
Fun games!
I'm talking about a video game.
I'm also talking about video games. It is a video games special.
Yeah, it is indeed. Yes.
We've been doing a lot of video games, to be fair, because of these endless lockdowns, and then...
Well, we're beyond that now, aren't we?
Yeah, but then the kind of thing of the difficulty of getting together is still a bit of a thing, isn't it?
I think now we've got a bit of freedom. We're just like, social calendar, let's book everything in. And I'm sure for yourself as well, I've started working in terms of playing gigs and things like that now, so that calendar's filling up.
I have got my first comedy gig tomorrow and I cannot wait.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so for anyone who's not listened to the podcast before, Erin works in music.
I do, yes.
Both in recording and producing music, but also in live music.
Yeah, as a performer. Check my band out over Salvation Jane. I can't even speak English. There we go.
Salvation Jane are amazing. Do go and check them out.
She hasn't seen us.
Yeah, but I've listened to the music because I'm a good sister.
You have. In all fairness, it's actually been locked down the whole time I've been in the band, so you couldn't really come and see us, so you're forgiven.
And then also, I was asked to be in your music video, and then the band decided I wasn't cool enough, and so they picked someone who had tattoos.
And dreadlocks. And a lot of piercing, because they wanted someone alternative. I'm sorry. Well, get some dreadlocks and some tattoos and some piercings, and you could be in the next one.
I'm just not cool, everyone.
Oh,
I'm just not cool.
Sad,
but it's
true.
okay. But still check the band out because I'm not bitter. They are actually amazing.
Thank you. What about your comedy gig anyway? Where's
I'm
that
doing an
going to?
improv gig tomorrow in Brent Cross. So by the time this comes out, I will have done it.
Yes, of course.
But it should be fun. Doing a bit of comedy. Yeah, like I do, I used to do pre-pandemic, quite a lot of live comedy. And I'm looking forward to an audience again. Yes! Real people. It's going to be amazing. I might be too excited. I'm going to try and I might need to take calms.
Do you get nervous before a show?
Nah, not for that kind of thing. No.
Okay.
Some things I do, but not really improv.
See, I stopped getting nervous before shows until last night I played one. And literally before we went on stage, the whole band were like... But oh my God, like you said, it's just having a crowd in front of you and having real people. When you play a song, you finish and everyone's like, yeah! It's
a bit like when you're gaming and like you go up to a shrine and it fills you with energy. That's how I feel about audiences.
Like a Zelda thing.
Yeah, that's how I feel with audiences. I'm like, give me your energy, fill up my batteries. I can't, as I say, I'm probably going to be too excited.
Well, best of luck for it. But anyway, we should probably talk about some sort of games or something.
Yeah, let's talk about some games.
Yeah.
So the way this works is we have a game each and we review the shit out of it. So, Erin, why don't you kick things off and tell me what the game you're playing is called?
So I've just started, well, I haven't just started playing, but I've started playing Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh, an oldie but a goodie.
I didn't realise how old it was, actually. In fact, I'll come back to that point in a bit. But yeah, I was quite surprised by it, actually, yeah.
Okie doke. Well, why don't you tell us about the game in a nutshell?
In a nutshell. So how can we describe this? It's a turn-based RPG game set in the kind. Sorry, the dog is attacking me right
Yeah, if you get a weird wavy mic noise, it's just the dog is jogging the mic backwards and forwards while Erim's trying to talk.
Awkward position.
It's my dog Benny.
Very sorry.
Say
I will
hi,
try
Benny.
and do this without the dog distracting me too much. So yeah, a turn-based RPG game, very much akin to, I believe, other Final Fantasy games, or if you're not familiar with that series of games, then something like Pokemon, where every attack is basically you've got like a certain bar that needs to fill up before you can do a certain move, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Set in a made-up fantasy world, which I don't believe actually has a name. But yes, that is it in a nutshell.
Final Fantasy made-up world.
Is
it
it
turn-based?
Yeah, that's what I said. Turn-based.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I
kind of
was also distracted by the dog. Apologies. So what, as someone who hasn't played Final Fantasy before, what was your expectation going in?
So I kind of have played a bit of Final Fantasy. When I say a bit, probably about 5 minutes of number 7 actually. So I kind of knew what it was going to be if it was anything like that. So again, yeah, that kind of like Pokemon, you go around the world and you have like random encounters, and then there's a monster and you can choose to run away or you can fight it and level up, kind of thing. In terms of the story and the world, I didn't really know too much about it, so I was kind of going in with open expectations, really. I think the only thing I had in terms of expectation was my partner said that she used to love it when she was like a younger person. When she was younger, she said it was really good, and we were looking for another game after we finished Zelda to play through. So yeah, we just thought we'd give it a go.
So were you playing it together?
Kind of. I mean, yeah.
So you're like taking turns?
Yeah. I mean...
You're making a weird face that no one can see, but I can see it. What does this mean?
Well, it's the typical kind of, your girlfriend and you play a game, but someone always tends to play it a bit more. Normally, if it's a challenging bit, it ends up with me playing it, and she's like, I'm just watching. I mean, it's not as bad as when we did Inside, where basically I had to complete the game for her, even though I hated it.
Oh yeah, you hated Inside.
This one, we are actually, divvying that up a fair bit, but I still feel like I'm getting a bit more of the challenge.
And what are you getting out of the game? Like, is it meeting your expectations? How does it play? Like, how are you finding it?
It was a bit of a slow burner at first, but I knew it was like quite a long game. Like the story and stuff, I'm not amazingly, pulled in by. But there's just some sort of weird charm about the game. And I think because it reminds me a little bit of Pokemon, there's a bit of that kind of nostalgia in that old school style of graphics and gameplay. And now I'm just like, I love it. It's like one of the highlights. If we can get a bit of time to sit down and play it, it's really, really enjoyable. So I really, really want to complete it. And yeah, if we can set aside like a few hours one night, I'll definitely suggest it.
Do you know how long it takes to beat?
My God, it's big. So I think, this game, sorry, I forgot to even bring this up actually. So this game actually was released in 1999 on the PlayStation, the original PlayStation. And I believe it was across 4 discs. So you can imagine.
So it's massive.
Yeah, like considering for the time as well. And this is why I said I was really surprised by it, because it's huge. Like there's a whole kind of world with 4 different continents, loads of cities and like different places to visit. Graphics, dated, but like I can imagine putting myself in that time of like being 10 years old and seeing the graphics of that game, I'd be astounded, really. It really is, I think it's quite cutting edge, and it's quite different from the other Final Fantasy games in that it's based more on realism rather than a cartoony kind of, art that they'd gone for before. It's also set in a more European environment rather than, I think their other stuff was more medieval. So yeah, like I'm absolutely loving it, and like it is just like a massive nostalgia thing for me. So has it met expectations? I think it's kind of exceeded it actually. I didn't realise how much I'd enjoy playing this, really.
Yeah, and talk to me about the sort of characters, because having as a person who's been to many conventions of geeky natures, people always come as Final Fantasy characters. So I've seen a lot of the characters. I've never played a Final Fantasy game. I'm aware of it.
Okay.
I know what they look like.
Yeah.
But talk to me about how you're finding the characters and the different characters within it. There's quite a few, isn't there?
There's quite a few. So I'm just going to confess that I don't know any of their names, but there is good reason behind this. This game is so customizable that you can change your characters' names.
Okay.
So I've turned mine all into very naughty things. So I won't.
Erim, are you 14? I mean, for goodness sake, have you called them Poo Poo Bum Bum Face?
Well, yeah, that and Buttons. I named one after like my pet name for Beth as well. So one of them's called OKG. All the rest of them have got horrible names. So please
So
forgive me.
listeners, you all know Erim's pet name for his girlfriend. OKG.
But yeah, going back to the actual characters. So the setting is you're training to be this thing called a Seed, which is like an elite mercenary, and you're in, I think, like the last stages of your preparation before you qualify to become one.
Cool.
So you're kind of quite a young, I guess, angsty, teenagery kind of character. There's a bit of like a romance in the background, but a lot of this game, because it's not really, it's not narrated.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of scrolling through text and reading it, and as you know, it's not really my kind of thing
I can't stand that.
to really be bothered. But like, so I'm not interested in that kind of thing. But the actual main storyline, from what I understand, you've obviously qualified to become this mercenary, and you go out into the world, and you uncover that someone is about to attack your city, which is called Bolam Garden. You discover plans that someone's going to be launching missiles at it.
No.
Yeah. And I hope this doesn't come across as spoilers, because this
game's really old.
Yeah, 22 years old. So if someone's upset about that, well, you've had plenty of time by now, haven't you?
I just like to draw attention to the fact that Erim keeps punctuating his chat with a little drum roll on his knees. So if you wonder what that noise is.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
If you hear it like... Da-da-da-da.
It's my thinking tap. Helps me carry on. But yeah, anyway, so like you discover this sorceress who's like the main protagonist.
Protagonist is like kind of the protagonist is like antagonist is like antagonizing something is like irritating and being a kind of negative force, or like a force that prevents you from doing what you want to do. So a protagonist is usually the person that you're going through the story with.
So this person is the antagonist, the sorceress.
Yeah.
And she's like tried to shoot missiles at your base, but you last minute have managed to inform your base, which also turns into like some massive mobile city. So right now, this is about as far as I've got. You've kind of moved base and you've crashed into this place called Fisherman's Horizon. And you have to try and convince them that you're there not to start a fight. But there's lots of bad guys trying to fight you. So yeah, that's about as far as I've got. So I think I'm coming up to about halfway through the game at the minute.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what are your sort of favourite things, like the most positive things that are popping out of you at you from this game?
I don't know, actually. Like, I get the nostalgia, the battling as well. Like, I love the turn-based battles. They take forever though, so I'll come on to that. But I love that whole kind of like leveling up and that almost Pokemon-y like turn-based kind of
You
thing.
keep mentioning Pokemon, but then I'm waiting for them to have little pocket monsters that come out.
Well, that's kind of the point, actually. You do have these, I guess they're almost like Pokemon, these things called Guardian Forces, which you can equip. And they're like big monsters, and they do like really, really powerful attacks, basically. So you can have like things that are like demons or like minotaurs, and I think I've got one that's like a mermaid who shoots waves and stuff. So I know I've mentioned it a lot, but with good reason.
Okay,
actually,
I didn't realise that you actually had a kind of secondary character that sort of helped you along.
Yeah, it's like
a secondary spirit or force or whatever.
It's a specific battle character that you have, and you, as you level up or do more missions and things like that, you collect other ones, slightly more powerful ones. But they also level up with you the more you use them, the more powerful they become. I mean, they haven't got like an array of attacks. They've just got one thing that they do.
Yeah, but they're kind of a special move.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Though weirdly, it seems like you can just use it as much as you want, so it's better than an attack, really.
Okay.
I don't really get the whole reason to attack people when there's more powerful ways to do it. But yeah, again, we'll come on to that when we're going into the more negative sides of it. But yeah, just the charm, and it's just it's a game you can just keep playing, and there's just some sort of charm about it, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but I just want to play it more. And I've got like that kind of urge to complete it and find out what's going to happen with this storyline at the minute, even though like I don't understand all the finer details of it, like the general storyline that I understand. I still want to find out what's going to happen to Balamgard, what's going to happen with this sorceress. Are we going to fight her? And
that means enough of the story's getting through to you as someone who, like me, just hates having to read pages and pages of text in order to learn things about, like, vital things about characters. So I don't mind reading text as a supplementary thing where you get extra story or like extra nuance to the different settings. I don't mind that, but I don't like lots of text as the only way that you get information. Because sometimes I'm too tired to read and lazy.
I mean, I think the main storyline is also illustrated quite well in cutscenes as well. So you do get a visual element of storytelling as well. But obviously, I think just constraints of when it was made. I think it was also made in quite a short amount of time as well. I heard it was like 1.5 years in development.
Right, okay.
So I think for that time it was quite short. So I can imagine it was probably one of the lesser things that needed to be done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it still comes across really, really well. So yeah,
great. So that brings us nicely onto any negatives about this game that you'd like to mention.
Yeah, definitely. it is so dated. Like the graphics, you can appreciate they were good, but now it's just like, it's like.
And this has been remastered, hasn't it?
I think I'm not playing the remastered version.
Oh, you're not?
No, I don't think I am. But there is a remastered version of it, definitely. So I imagine that would also help a lot more.
Yeah. I thought that's what you were playing. Sorry.
I might be. If it is remastered, maybe they could have done a little bit more.
I think before you make that comment, you should probably know which version you're playing. To be fair. Maybe. To be fair to the people that have worked on it.
I'm sorry, please don't
As
send me
you
death
can
threats.
see, listeners, we are not professional games journalists. But we're here to give you the tea about gameplay just for the average gamer.
Casual gamers.
That's
what we are.
That's what we are. We love games, but we're not professional games journalists.
No. Well, I think the majority of people are really.
Exactly. That's the whole point of why we do this podcast, is because, like for me, even when I want to listen to a gaming podcast, but I find them so inaccessible because they're always talking about games that haven't even come out yet.
Yeah.
So I can't get a feel for what the game is, and or they're just talking about development and engines and stuff that I'm like, okay, I get it, but I just want to know what it plays like. I want to know if you care about it. I want to know if there's any joy to be had.
Yeah.
So that is why we do this podcast.
And that is exactly what it is. But that's 100% right. Like, some people just enjoy the experience of gaming.
Exactly.
Like I said, I'm not a big. I don't want to know every single little detail about the game. I want to pick it up and be able to play it.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Like, it's no good knowing that a game took X amount of years to play and cost this amount of money and was won loads of awards by critics, but then when you play it, it's the most boring thing you've ever played in your life. So it's just one of those things, isn't it? Yeah. But anyway, continue with your
negatives.
Slightly less good.
Yeah.
Point.
So there's also a bit of a weird menu system. So remember how I was talking about these Guardian forces? The way that you equip them seems a bit clunky. It's not the most intuitive the way you have to do it.
Yeah.
So Beth had to explain it quite a few times before I started to get to grips with what I was actually meant to do. There's no real tutorial of doing it either, so
yeah, I feel like tutorials are quite a modern thing, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like we take for granted now, especially with the AAA games, you get into it in like the first level or the first area or the first part of the story is always a tutorial.
Yeah.
So we sort of take it for granted a bit now.
I think this is where games start. Obviously, in that time, games were starting to become a bit more complex, but they weren't quite at that stage yet. But you can tell, like, this is where things like that would have been quite helpful. But I mean, you'll eventually work it out. And plus, in this day and age, if you're going to play it, you could just look online, a little walkthrough.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, actually, I think we did YouTube a few tips of how to operate the menu system. As soon as you saw a few videos of it, you understood it. But obviously, it's just lacking in the gameplay. Other than that, now controversially, I don't like the music score. Apparently, like, it's amazing.
People rave about the music.
I know.
That's one thing I do know. Like, people, and I've actually just listened to some of it online because I listen to a lot of video games music because I'm a nerd.
Well, I feel like there are some good soundtracks, but the general soundtrack for different environments, I just don't particularly like.
What is it that jars for you? Oh, it's too whimsical.
It's just a bit like like just nothing music. I don't
sing it again, Erim.
Just like that kind of is. I almost notice it too much for it to really deliver an atmosphere as such. And I think this again goes into more modern kind of music production techniques where they actually use it to kind of create an atmosphere. This is more like, oh, you're somewhere. Here's the thing. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's just a bit obvious.
That banging again was Erin playing music on the table. Table drums, that piano.
Well, I am a musician, so
That's really interesting that you say that about you notice it, because something that Alex, my partner, and I say when we're playing games and watching films actually is that when you notice music or when you notice effects, and that's the dog just coughing a fur ball up. Are you a cat?
Did you notice that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you heard that. You did. That was my dog. But yeah, Alex and I often say that, if you notice something in a movie or in a game, like if it stands out and makes you go, oh, but that's playing now, or that's weird dialogue, like then it's usually not quite right. Yeah. Because when the music works, it's almost seamless.
It's immersive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's immersive. Yeah. And you don't notice it at all. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really interesting point that you brought up, and one that I've noticed a lot with modern games, and I'll come onto it when I do my review, because I think the game I'm reviewing does it really well, but other games don't. So were there any other points that you wanted to make or anything of note?
Yeah, battles are a bit long-winded. Like, fortunately, we've got there's a speed up shortcut you can use on the game. So the battles don't take quite so long. Right. But yeah, if it was just at normal speed that I imagine it would be on PlayStation, like originally, then yeah, the battles could just be really, really long-winded. Other than that, maybe sometimes the way that different environments are set, because it's that kind of, I think it might be called like 2.5D, where it's like a 3D environment, but the camera doesn't move. It's like a still camera, and you can move around it. So sometimes the camera angles aren't necessarily that great, especially when you're further away and you're like, I can imagine like watching that on a little Valve screen. Do you remember like the
old TVs?
Like, where is my person?
Yeah, so as in the camera's sort of locked off and stuck in position, but you can move. You can move further away and closer.
It does like hover with you, but a lot of them is just a static shot, and then you move around the environment.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because then when you get further, I found that a bit with things like Super Smash, like the first couple of Super Smashes, where you'd get so far away sometimes.
Yeah, and you'd
be a little dot. You'd be like, I can't see anything. What I item is that? I don't know. Is it a bomb? Is it something useful?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you'd have to like get right up to the TV.
It is a bit like that, but fortunately we've got a fairly big TV now.
Squinty
so
McSquinterson will
it's
be your
still
new
a
name.
little bit, yeah, Squinty McSquinterson. But,
so yeah, was there anything of note about the game that you want to mention, or anything that you haven't touched on yet?
So maybe not. Actually, I guess it is about the game specifically, but it's the nostalgia kind of charm. Even though I didn't play it as a kid, it reminds me of that time of playing these games as a younger person.
Because you're old now.
I'm a little bit old.
He's not old. I'm 7 years older than him. He's really not old.
30s is pretty. It's all right.
Yeah. Whatever.
You're still in your 30s. Embrace it for the next
5 months.
I was leaving that open-ended so you could extend it.
It's okay. I'm not ashamed about my age.
Oh.
I'm wiser now. That's what I've been told.
Oh. That's what old people say. But yeah, it is just the nostalgia of that old school gaming, and I think when I put that head on of like me being a 10-year-old boy playing this, you really appreciate how amazing this game is and how well crafted it is. And the realism that's gone into it, like I can imagine just being blown away by how it looks and the environments as well, like the cities and stuff. Even now, I'm still like, wow, they look amazing, and they've all got their own like little charming character.
Oh, so you like the graphics now?
No. So,
you're dissing it, now you like it.
Yeah, so that's my point. Like from a modern day,
yeah.
It is awful, but from that kind of
your
time,
leg, brother.
Okay. I'm just trying to do my review.
I'm sorry. Continue.
Thank you. But yeah, I like the environments and how the detail that's gone into each individual city in creating its own kind of atmosphere. Nowhere looks the same kind of thing.
Oh, that's really nice. I mean, we lived through. You probably remember it as well. Like we lived through a huge revolution not revolution. That's not the right words. Yeah, maybe it is.
Was a revolution.
The kind of tech revolution kind of. But in terms of video games, when we were very young children, everything was blocky, kind of 8-bit, 16-bit.
Yeah.
And then we got to the point of 3D and polygon. And like we saw all of that growing up. So in a really short space of time. And I do remember even getting the N64 and Mario 64 and just being like, wow, it's 3D, just being amazed by that. And so I can totally visualize what you're saying about putting yourself in that perspective of your sort of 9-10-year-old and kind of going, whoa, it looks like a real cartoon, but real.
Yeah. That is probably it. You can tell it's still a cartoon, but they've gone for such realism with it. With the environments, it's just got a nice visual atmosphere to it.
Cool.
So I said the kind of music stuff kind of takes you out of that, but visually, I think it just looks amazing. Yeah.
So, who would you recommend this game to?
So anyone who wants a bit of nostalgia and likes that turn-based RPG kind of stuff, really. I mean, it is quite, even for nowadays, it is quite a chunky game. So you are going to have to invest some good time into it. So it's not something you're just going to pick up and go. But yeah, anyone who likes the Final Fantasy series, I guess anyone who's been into the more modern ones and wants to find out a bit of history about it would be really good. People who like Pokemon and want something that's not quite Pokemon, but similar, give it a go. I think it's a good game. Good game for nostalgia.
Alrighty, that brings us nicely onto your review. Erim, what would you give Final Fantasy 8 out of 10?
My rating, I'm gonna say 7.5. I think.
I mean, you haven't completed it yet, so slight caveat.
No, I haven't completed it, but I feel like I know it's what I rate it really. I know I've turned that down, but it still pings for some reason. But,
What? His phone, everyone is.
Yeah, I'd say 7.5 out of 10. It's a great game. It really, really is, but it is dated, and I think that's what knocks it back a bit. But I imagine if I was a 10-year-old, probably give it a 9. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Thank
lovely. So that
we're going to move on to you, aren't we?
Yeah, that brings us on to me.
Yeah, so let's. What have you been playing, Jemmy?
Well, I've been playing a game that I started 2 years, maybe more than 2 years ago, actually.
Wow.
A game that I started quite a long time ago, and then I got distracted by other games, which happens to me a lot. So I'm going to be talking about Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus.
Oh, sounds exciting. So, in a nutshell, please explain Wolfenstein.
Okay, here we go. Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus is a 2017 action-adventure first-person shooter game. It's developed by Machine Games, published by Bethesda Softworks.
Oh, yeah.
And is on Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and has been ported to Nintendo Switch since 2018, so it's also on there.
What are you playing it on, by the way?
I'm playing it on Xbox Series X.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought I started it on Xbox, and then when I sort of forgot about, well, I didn't forget about it, but I was distracted by other games. I was like, maybe I'll get it for the Switch. The Switch?
The Switch.
The Switch. Because at the time I was travelling a lot, so I was like, I'll get it for the Switch.
The Switch.
And,
I want that to be
should
a
be
thing.
called the Switch.
The Nintendo Switch.
Sounds cuter somehow. But I'm glad I didn't actually, because I've gone back to it like 2.5 years after I started playing it, and it's really good on the Xbox.
Just out of curiosity, have you restarted, or have you actually picked it up where
I picked it up from where I left off, and I was about a quarter of the way through, so I'd played a good chunk.
Okay.
And so I was worried I wouldn't remember anything.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
I got far enough through that I was confused when I started playing again, because I got some good weapons, and I got to a point where things were getting a bit tough. Like the battles were getting a bit harder, and I was like, I might have to start again. But I just watched a YouTube tutorial.
Okay.
And then remembered how to
managed
play it.
To pick it up again.
Yeah, managed to pick it up. I switched it onto an easier mode as well, to get back into the swing of it, because I had no idea what I was doing when I went back to it. But
that's fair enough. I mean, I think I would have just restarted, knowing me. I would have just lost patience. But anyway, bringing back to the review. So, expectations of the game.
Well, because it's a first-person shooter, it's very much a shooter game. I'm always a bit dubious about whether I will enjoy them, because if a first-person shooter takes itself, and it is a shooter, and it's not like also an open world or more of an RPG. This is a proper sort of action adventure, so the story's there for you. It's quite linear.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes with those, I can get quite bored if they take themselves too seriously, or if it's just like too hard at the beginning. Then I get annoyed because I can't. Because you can't RPG it and play the way you want to play. Sometimes I get a bit frustrated if it's too hard initially. So I knew that I would like the game story, because I'd watched Alex, my partner, play it. So, and I'll come on to why I knew I'd like it later. But I was worried that I would find it frustrating or too hard, or I think it's just a thing that I think first-person shooters aren't for me.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit like what we were saying like quite a bit of time ago. Story-driven games weren't really something that appealed to me as such, but sometimes when you start playing the game and actually experiencing it, you realise there's more to it than just that first-person shooter. Yeah,
That's a really good point as well, because when I think of, I've started playing them in the last couple of years, but traditionally I'd think, like a shooter, Call of Duty. Yeah. Like, that's not for me. Yeah. I just, because of the packaging, because of the branding, because of the characters, I just think, well, that's not for me. Which is silly, obviously that's not the case. But I think games have cottoned on to things like branding and the characters and the worlds that they set things in, and to make that more accessible to a broader audience. So I was worried that it wouldn't be accessible to me, but it was.
Yeah.
And when I started playing it, I remember thinking, it's pretty hard when you start the game.
Yeah.
You start the game in a wheelchair with like a really weak body because of what's happened in the previous game. So this is a sequel to the Wolfenstein reboot, which came out a few years before that. But I've only played this one, so I haven't played any of the other.
Do you know what your character is then? Like
no,
what's happened before? You don't have any idea then?
No, but it tells you at the start. So you get a kind of a little bit of a backstory, and you know why your character's like weak and feeble. He's been really badly injured. He's pretty much like semi-paralyzed, and you're basically in a situation where I've never played a game where I'm in a wheelchair wielding massive guns. And let me tell
you, sounds like something from Desperado.
It's one, the mobility stuff is really well done.
Yeah.
So the wheelchair is really hard to sort of steer about, and obviously you've got to deal with stairs, you've got to deal with narrow, which I think like is a really good thing in a game, because we have to understand like not everyone is a big bulky action hero, right? And I think it's quite good to have that in a game where you are navigating something that isn't as freewheeling as someone who's got really powerful, fully working legs.
Do you know what? It sounds like quite an original idea, really. I can't think of any games that have done that.
No,
really.
I can't either. But it's a really nice, and it is only that area because he then gets a sort of power upgrade, which isn't a spoiler. That's, you see any artwork of the game and he's standing up and he's buff.
Yeah.
He's buff out. But it's just really interesting, that first level where you're really weak and pathetic. So you kind of go in, and it was challenging, and it really chucks you in at the deep end, but I really enjoyed it. So I was like, I'm going to like this game. I like the setup. I like the character. I'm going to have fun with it.
Good. So, I mean, that literally, I think that's a perfect point, really, to bring us on to. So what are you enjoying about the game? What is it doing really well?
Right. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of great things about this game.
Brilliant.
So I think the main thing to say about the game is set in an alternate history.
Yeah.
So it says it takes place in 1961.
Yeah.
Following the Nazi victory in the Second World War, where Nazis basically own what we now call the free world. So the United States, which is where a lot of this game is set, is basically owned, run, governed by Nazis. And the story follows war veteran William B.J. Blazkowicz.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. BJ. And he basically has a gang of misfits, and together they fight the Nazi regime in the United States. And one of the things that I loved about this game is all of the characters. Okay. So William is a bit of a kind of standard American hero type.
All right. Okay.
So very archetypal, sort of big, very earnest, quite sentimental American hero who just wants to like protect his wife and unborn twins.
Family.
Yeah.
Nothing more important than family.
Yeah. So he's a bit sappy, but he's your main guy. But what really makes it is all of the supporting cast.
All right.
They're amazing. So I'm just going to talk about a few of my favourites. So I absolutely love you hook up with a kind of rebel leader called Grace Walker.
Okay.
She is one of the best badass characters you've ever seen in a video game.
Yeah.
So she runs a predominantly black group of revolutionaries.
Yeah.
And I was confused about the timelines. It says it's set in 1961, but they very much feel like sort of early 70s hippies.
Yeah.
But they're always like, right on, man, right on. Like, I love the dialogue. It's so good. But she's such a brilliant, raw, complex character. Like, when you meet her, she's got a newborn baby and a gun in the other hand. It's like, she's amazing. And all the cutscenes with her go between her telling William to shush because the baby's just gone down, or her like doing like crunches. Like, just like standing on the pool table.
Yeah.
Oh, they're in a submarine. I forgot to mention that. So most of the
Submarine,
game,
pool table, baby.
their base is kind of a submarine.
Yeah.
So like when a lot of the cutscenes and a lot of the missions start in the submarine where you get your kind of mission brief and stuff. But she's like stood on the pool table like shooting a gun in the air kind of thing, like delivering a motivational speech. She's so cool.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Grace, and I think that having that really cool female character works so well because the main antagonistic force, remember what that means, Erin?
That's the bad person.
Yeah. That's the force that gets in the way of the thing that your protagonist wants to achieve.
Okay.
So the main antagonistic force, also female character, is called Irina Engel. And so she's a Nazi German woman in her 50s. And she is amazing. She, again, total badass.
Yeah.
But also absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
And at this point, I have to commend every single dialogue writer on this game is a genius. Because to play a first-person shooter, a game that is predominantly built around shooting things with massive guns.
Yeah.
And to enjoy it as much as like a comedy series, like an action comedy series.
Okay.
And watch the cutscenes and literally laugh out loud.
Yeah.
To the point where I'd happily just go on YouTube and just watch all the cutscenes.
Oh, really? I might have to give that a go.
The writing is absolutely incredible, and Irina is like a masterclass in how to write an antagonistic force in a game that has a sense of humour.
Yeah. Because
she's horrible.
Yeah.
Like she's actively torturing and ordering death of people, and at one point, I'm not going to give a spoiler, but at one point she does something to William, your character, that is just hideous.
Oh no!
But at every point, it's also hilarious. Like this is a fully rounded, fully realised character.
Can I just ask, like, so you say it's hilarious? What's like kind of the art style? Is it a bit cartoonish? The kind of
no, it's really realistic.
Yeah.
Everyone's rendered really realistically. Yeah. Everyone looks great actually. Yeah. Their uniforms and their clothes are really cool as well. Yeah. And as I said, it's got that sort of like 60s, 70s feel.
Yeah.
For a lot of the protagonists, the Americans, have got really quite cool clothes.
Yeah.
Especially Grace's group of people. They all look amazing.
Yeah.
And then the design on all the Nazi uniforms, which aren't exactly like historically... They're
you said it was an alternate history.
Exactly. So they've kind of like modernised the uniforms and... it's just really cool. But like Irina is such a great baddie.
Yeah.
And then my other favourite character is her daughter, who defects from the Nazis really early on. So it's not a spoiler, really, really early on. She defects and you kind of adopt her. And she's called just Sigrun. She's amazing. And she's like the most sort of sweet, like heartfelt, adorable character. But she's also quite hench and really strong. Like, and so there's this sort of like, you look at her and you're like, she could kill a man, but at the same time, she's really like emotional and sweet. Like, she's really good.
Oh, gentle giant.
Yeah, but I think the beauty, and the reason I mentioned the characterization as being my biggest positive, is the beauty of all of them. They've all got layers. Every single character's got multiple layers, so that you also get to kind of pick a kind of friend. So I picked a guy called Fergus. Quite early on, you do a mission and you sort of decide who's going to help you out, basically. Yeah. And he's a sort of fiery Scottish guy who has one mechanical arm.
Okay.
So it's kind of, although it's set in the past, they have a lot of tech that we don't have.
A bit of science fiction in there as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's got this mechanical arm that just... it basically reveals his true feelings. Yeah. So if he says something but he's secretly angry, like it will just stick a middle finger up. I like at one point he tries to ask one of the girls on the submarine on a date.
Oh yeah.
And the arm like gropes her. It's like, which is bad, by the way. This is bad. But he knows it's bad and he tells his arm off and like takes it off at one point, like throws it away. But
it's like his little pet thing.
It's like his inner naughty boy is the mechanical arms. It's just all the characters are so complex and some of the cutscenes are absolutely hilarious. just in terms of you think a scene is going to go one way, and then within it will just have like it will flip, and then it will be like almost like a comedy skit. It's so funny, but like horrible sometimes, and it will often raise the stakes for your characters. But still be hilarious. So it reminds me of, have you seen the film The Death of Stalin?
I have actually.
It's got that kind of feel to it.
I've seen about half of it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the quote was, but it was like, you look like a testicle or something like that from it.
I mean, probably, I can't remember. I watched it quite a while ago, but it's got that kind of feel, do you know what I mean? Where it's very sort of tongue-in-cheek, but so well written that you're laughing at the same time that you're like, things got bad for my character.
I'm almost imagining like a mix of something like, if you've seen it, The Boys mixed with
The Boys,
Man in the High Castle.
Basically that.
Yeah.
Basically that. That's a really good. That's a really extreme violence, massive guns, and
quite funny and
hilarious.
modern Nazi uniforms.
Yeah, that's really exactly that.
Nice one.
Yeah, and also the guns all have German names because everything's German.
Yeah.
So like some of the name I can't pronounce them, but like Maschinenpistole, Kampfpistole, Laserkraftwerk, Handgranat. So like, all your, I don't know if this is the actual German, I don't speak German, but like, I just love that like all the guns were German.
Yeah.
But it meant that I couldn't get my head around which gun was which at one point. The menus are quite
small.
small.
Does it not give you a description of like,
it does, but you have to kind of click
image
into it. The image is just like a kind of outline.
Yeah.
So
just curiously then, so if you've got all these guns, you don't really understand what they are. Is it going to be something like Borderlands where there's about 7 million guns? And
no.
It's like, what am I even doing now?
I was worried it would get like that because there was so many guns at one point, and also there's certain guns that you can never carry indefinitely.
Okay.
So there are guns that you pick up off enemies that are like heavies.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, like big guns. And you can't put them in your inventory, which I think is quite good actually. But there were so many different ones of those. I was like, I'm never going to get a head around them. And you also have to like charge them up. So some of them are run by petrol. Some of them have electric power. So you have to recharge them during gameplay. Gameplay.
Interesting mechanic.
Yeah, which I thought was going to annoy me. But actually, once you get used to it, it's totally fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, so if there's no other positives, then let's go on to, are there any negatives really with this game?
A bit menus, like not menus as such, but just switching between guns I found a bit cumbersome because it's a dual wielding game. You don't have to dual wield, but you can. I found the way that you change guns really annoying, and you could accidentally turn off the dual wield really easily when you go into the menu.
Yeah. So
it's just one of those where it's like a wheel, but there's because you go from one wheel into the second wheel, it's really easy to like accidentally select the wrong thing. So that kind of annoyed me.
So button mapping's not amazing then.
Yeah, I just find the wheel-based systems. If you've got more, like, especially if you've got multi-wheel, so you've got the right hand and the left hand, it's too sensitive, so you can accidentally just select the wrong thing. So that was kind of annoying, and also it doesn't pause gameplay at all.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, that's going to make it even worse then.
Yeah, it makes it more challenging, and I guess if you love a shooter and you like the challenge, then it makes you think strategically as soon as you meet the adversaries. You're like, what guns do I need? But obviously different enemies need different guns, as in all these games. So, you do need to switch a bit. So I did find that slightly frustrating because I've played a lot of games that are just more, effortless when you're selecting between things.
Yeah.
So that was that my only negative? I think it's my only negative.
I mean, fair enough. No game's perfect, I guess, really.
No, I loved it.
Brilliant. Well, in which case, then let's go straight to recommendations. So, who is this game for, then, in your eyes?
I think this game is for anyone who loves first-person shooters, but specifically anyone who has a sense of humour and would enjoy the way this is sort of rooted in history. So there are things that, although it's an alternate history, it does reference things that have happened in our history, like Roswell, which is famously where apparently aliens
Yeah.
were discovered in the USA. It references things like that. And if you know anything about those events in history, there's lots of little Easter eggs for you.
Okay.
So there's stuff like that, which I think is really fun. And if you know some key things that were happening in the States and in kind of
in the world,
the war and the world,
okay.
like there is some little nuggets for you that they kind of turn on their head and play with in a really fun way. That I just think makes it an absolute joy. So I think, as well as being for people that like first-person shooters, I think if you like shooters, but you also like good, fun narrative, I think that this is the game for you.
Yeah.
Because it really combines both, and the story is so fun and good and takes you along with it and has multi-layers that are really... Unlike what you were describing, where you had to read everything, it's mostly all done in cutscenes.
Yeah.
And there are little supplementary things you can pick up, but my goodness, the cutscenes are so fun.
Yeah.
I just wanted to rewatch them as soon as they were done. Like, they're just so fun.
Yeah.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I think that is the beauty of modern games, where they have that kind of like facility to do that. And the one I think of all the time was what's it called? Red Dead Redemption 2. Some of the like, especially early on the game, are just hilarious.
Yeah. The pub scene where you get drunk.
You go to the bar of, is it Lenny?
Lenny. The Lenny scene. For anyone who's played Red Dead 2 Redemption, Red Dead Redemption 2, that scene is iconic. So I'm sure that's not a spoiler, but just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and this is like that, but every cutscene is like that. Like every cutscene gives you a moment of joy.
Oh, that's the special alarm.
We'll pause the podcast.
Tasty intermission music. Tasty intermission music. Tasty. Yum.
Okay, yeah, so sorry for that interruption.
It was our takeaway.
It was indeed. We're very much looking forward to it. So we'll wrap up quickly. So where were we? Expectations. I wanted to ask whether it was...
recommendations, dude.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. It ends in...
Aaron's distracted because he's now...
tasty things.
Yeah, he's now excited about curry.
But yeah, recommendations. So it sounds like it's a good game to get into if you're new to the first-person shooter world and you're coming from a different kind of genre of gaming. It sounds quite accessible. Would you recommend it?
Yeah. Also, Alex, my partner, is punching poppadoms in the background now. I'm getting crazy. We don't normally do this downstairs, but it's really hot in the UK right now, so I cannot go upstairs. Alex, do you mind not rustling for a second? Thanks.
Sorry, Alex. Now I feel guilty.
No, it's okay. So, what did you ask?
We said we wrap this up quickly. I feel like this is going to take longer than the first half. As a first-person shooter, because obviously there's quite a lot of story-driven narrative. So would I recommend this to someone who is just getting into the genre? Absolutely, yeah. I would say though, it is really quite challenging when you first start the game, so don't be put off by it. There are lots of difficulty settings. There's one that's called like, Please Daddy Can I Play, or something like that, which is what I played it on because I hadn't played it for ages, so I had to go back, and I was just like enjoying myself so much. When I switched it back up to the normal setting, I was like, I can't be bothered to relearn everything in order to play at this level, so I played it on easy mode. And to be honest, I really enjoyed myself. Yeah, well, fair enough.
And I play most games on normal.
Yeah.
Like, I would just go in on normal. But this one, I really enjoyed myself playing it on this kind of please, Daddy, can I play?
Oh, bless.
But
that's amazing.
That just gives you an idea of how funny the game is.
Yeah.
The game setting modes are just got really funny names. But just before I give my rating, I do want to do a shout out to the music in this game, the use of sound and the use of music. It was incredible. And to touch on what you said earlier, so the composers on this were Mick Gordon, Martin Stick Anderson. This music was flawless in that it didn't encroach on your gameplay, it only amplified your gameplay, which is exactly what we were saying music sort of should do in our viewing
Yeah,
games.
it's more there to supplement than to like just be like, here's some sounds.
But also the sound work, and I know I talk about this a lot in games, but when mechanical things sound really good, and when that is sort of intercut with score, or when there's moments of silence and like you can hear weapons sort of charge up and stuff, I love that. Like I love hearing my gun go,
Yeah.
you know, and like there was some like a cool mechanical creature that you get to ride around on at some point, and just like the noise of that and the crowd noises, and the score is great. And then the other thing that works here is when they use pop songs. So I have a bugbear with games that have an orchestral score for the whole game, really atmospheric, beautiful stuff, and then end with a pop song.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't fit the thing. And I'm like, so I've just completed the game, and the end credits come up, and it's like a pop song. It winds me up.
Fair enough.
But this has got a kind of rocky score, so like a lot of the songs that are used in it are quite like rocky. There's a lot of hard guitar. It really fits the game. It reminds me a bit of Doom, like a bit of Doom Eternal, and that kind of hard rock soundtrack. And then at the end there's a rock song, and you're like, it fits.
Yeah.
It works.
The whole game's kind of been based around that.
Works, and it's seamless and lovely. So I just wanted to mention that.
It's good to hear rock making a bit of a re-emergence in some places, actually. Like, not even just in games, actually. It seems to be on the up and up, which is good for me. But no, that's really good to hear. But anyway, so, rating. Out of 10.
I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10.
Wow. That's amazing.
Tried to say that in a German accent. I didn't at all.
Do you know how to say 9 in German? 9 out
Isn't
of...
it?
It is 9, yeah. I wouldn't say nerf. That's the wrong language.
Zen, right? Is it Zen? Did
know.
I make that up?
Oh
my gosh,
I can't
we're
remember
embarrassing
German.
ourselves.
The only German I know is Das Gemüseburger is lecker, and that literally means that veggie burger is tasty. I don't know why. That's the only thing I remember from school.
To all Germans. We're sorry. That was very offensive.
What? It's what I remember. I got taught this at school. This is literally the only phrase I remember.
But to cut a long podcast short,
yes,
it was an excellent game. Highly recommend it. Really, really enjoyed it. One of the best games I've played. Very glad I completed it.
Now, I think Alex wants his curry, so I think that will have to bring us to the end.
Thank you so much for bearing with us during this slightly chaotic episode of My Turn Podcast. But what do you expect?
Yeah, it always
we
is.
are professional games reviewers. We just love games, and we love hanging out and talking about games. And if you do too, we are actively seeking recommendations of games we should be playing, particularly board games, because we are spending a lot of time now thinking about games that we can play together.
Yes.
Definitely. So, do hit us up with a recommendation. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And if you're listening to us on Apple, iTunes, podcast, iPodcast,
Apple Watch,
Apple Podcast, please, if you feel the love in your heart, please give us a 5-star review.
Don't beg them, just tell them. Give us 5 stars or we will find you.
And hunt you down.
Well, now that's a threat now. We would just found them and be like, could you give us a 5-star? Now they could legally probably take us down. Well done! We don't even make money from this and you're losing money for us.
We do this with love, so please support the COD. The COD? The pod.
COD.
Oh my goodness. It's time to end this podcast.
Yeah, you need to go play your Nintendo Switch. Okay, thank you so much for listening. It's bye from me, Jem.
Bye from me, Erim.